everybody, and welcome back to yet another episode of Against All Odds. And as I say at the beginning of every podcast, this is purely selfish reason that I do this podcast because I get to speak to the most inspirational people. And today, I'm pleased to welcome the Pilates guru, Nisha. How are you, my lovely?
I'm good, Amy.
Well, you're going to tell everybody your surname because it's fabulous. I just can't pronounce it.
Well, the surname's called Srivastava, and it's actually an Indian name, Amy. So my father's from India, my mother is English, my former mother's English.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So you are, I'm seeing you all over Facebook doing all the Pilates, getting everybody in shape. And when you're impacting people in that way, because it's good for your body and for your mind, isn't it, Pilates? There's normally a big reason to why you've got into that. What is your big why?
A big why is, Amy, well, I came from a dance background. When I was moving from dance and getting a little bit more maturer, and I was working in show business, and when I was actually working in a cabaret, there came a time and point in my life where I felt I needed to change and I need something more soulful, something more slow, and something more connected to myself and my body. And the calling was always there. And sadly, my brother took his life when I was in my mid to late 20s. And after he took his life, I saw this advert for a Pilates course, which was with Michael King. And I didn't really know what Pilates was. We'd done it at dance college with a Laban teacher, and it was quite hardcore. And in those days, it was called body conditioning and very specific. And I found it quite tough. And I thought this would be more mindful and more meditative. And when I went to do the course, I realized what the mental toughness and the suppleness and the strength and the powerhouse was involved in the course. So that was my calling and that was my why, Amy. And remember, all pain in life is actually a springboard if you use it. So it was one of the most amazing outcomes from the bereavement.
Oh, wow. I never knew that about you, Nisha. Didn't know that.
Yes.
People,
Well,
oh,
the
wow.
thing is, Amy, you see, I listen to people's story all the time. And if you repeat the same story all the time, that becomes part of your personality. Then your personality is a reflection of your inner reality. So I don't speak it out about it and I don't make a song and dance about it because it's not, yes, it's part of my background, but it's not my story. It's something which I have experienced because everything happens for my growth. Nothing happens to me. And everything that happens to us in life, there are most amazing things to learn from those, situations. And it's how you react and what you do from the situation which changes you. So, as I said to you, I listen to so many people who keep clinging on to their story. But if you cling on to your story, Amy, you never change and you never reach your potential because really we have to create a new self, a new way of being in life. So, we need to create new human beings instead of human doings.
Oh, mate, do you know what? I love that. And I agree with you so much as well because trauma it can play out in your body as well, like getting stiff and everything with your muscles and everything like that, can't it?
Of course, Amy. Now, I listened to a podcast today because I did a little bit of research before I came on about neuroplasticity, and you're quite right. Everything that happens to us in life, we call it big T and little t. So, some people it will be a big trauma, other people will be a little trauma. And as Edith Edgar said, and she is known as the ballerina of Auschwitz, and she's still alive, and she's a psychiatrist or psychologist, as far as I remember. It's not what happens, it's how you react to it. But I do see in clients, that pain from trauma can residue in the body from the brain in the central nervous system. So it can embody into the body through stiffness, through chronic pain, through depression, through disease. Remember, dis-ease where the body is not at ease. Depression is where we're suppressing our emotions and we're not letting them express out in ways. So there are ways of changing this, Amy. And yes, your genes load the gun, the environment pulls the trigger, but it's having the tools in the toolbox, learning to do the work so that we can disembark and let those emotions dispel out through the cells rather than keeping them trapped in different areas of the body.
It's absolutely fascinating. So we said before the podcast, I'm actually making it one of my goals to try Pilates. So we all know Pilates is good for us, stretching and that. But in your words, what are its main benefits, like physically and mentally?
Well, I would say if you really embrace a proper Pilates practice, and it is true Pilates, it's a mind-body connection. So Joseph Pilates, called his method actually contrology. So you cannot separate the mind and body. It's holistic health. It's looking at your diet, your sleep, your hydration, getting out in nature, and your perspective on life. When you do anything, Amy, and it's the same as practicing on our phone, and the more we do it, the more accomplished we become at it. So if you have a regular practice of Pilates with a good teacher who is going to guide you and coach you and take you into another realm, its benefits are tenfold, because a strong body is a strong mind. So as above, so is below. So I do believe when you have a stronger body, you have a better ability to cope with life's problems, and also you stand firm in that powerhouse. So when you stand up nice and tall, the way Joseph Pilates did, you are opening your heart to the world. You're saying, here I am ready, instead of I am, shut in, I am cornered. So it's you're ready to face the world. Your heart center is open. You're here. You're ready to sponge in, everything, and accept everything that's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Love that. So it's like good for your body and for your mind. It's absolutely
Yes.
like incredible. Because I suppose it's like, because you know, people say about yoga and Pilates.
Yes.
What's the difference in those?
Well, like yoga, there are many different types of yoga and many different types of Pilates. Yoga, depending on whether it's dynamic or whether it's yin yoga, you're moving from pose to pose, and you tend to sit in the end range of motion. With Pilates, you work in a smaller range of motion, and it tends to be in reps of 8 to 10. And it's the actual sequence of the moves and the exercises and the transitions which actually link one exercise to the other, which benefits. So I didn't mention breathing, Amy. So the way we live in life now, our breath is everything. So when you breathe, as you know, with neuroplasticity, it has an ability to change our cells. And when you get that sequence and the flow, it becomes like a moving meditation. So it's breath work, it's control, it's discipline, it's mindfulness, it's stability, it's balance, it's working from the inside out. It will be so many things, but everything is interpretation. So you and I are singing from the same hymn sheet, Amy, but other people might have a different interpretation. And I always say to people, no matter what you do in life, go and do your research, study from as many teachers and as many studios and as many practitioners as you can, and then make your own informed decision. Because the more you study and the more you look at, the more you can interpret the work and find the right fit for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't know about you, but I'm only seeing from the outside, but there's been a huge increase in people doing like yoga and Pilates, like over the last few years, because I honestly think people saw like fitness and health as you've got to be in the gym 5 times a week or you've got to run marathons. But people are a bit more mindful about their bodies now and having that more peaceful stretch and
Yes.
exercise.
Well,
Are
I
you
think
seeing
after
that?
lockdown, Amy, with the rise of, during lockdown, we were all forced on Zoom, Instagram, YouTube, all these social media outlets, that mindful practices such as Pilates, various types of yoga, gong baths, breathing and things went through the roof online. And I think people are craving deep in the soul a more calmer and a better way of living and a better approach to stress, because stress is everything. So what I didn't say is, Amy, that 90%, or there's a quote that I read, 90% of disease and depression is actually the stress around us and how we react to it. So we are all trying to battle our way through life and make the best we can of our life and handle our stress the best we can. And with Pilates, it's low impact, it's not running up and down. If you're using the apparatus and you go to a comprehensive classical or contemporary studio, they will assist you using all the apparatus apparatus, which is the reformer, the tower, the Cadillac, the barrels. Some of them use other apparatus and they support the body using springs. So you've got a more supported feeling for your body in which you can learn control and you can learn slow moves and eventually build a tempo and flow. And the same with yoga. People want that peacefulness. They want that mindfulness. They want to, everybody is doing their best. We all want to better ourselves and we're all trying to do it with the tools in our toolbox and what we've got access to.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you do Pilates without equipment?
You can do
Right.
yeah, Pilates, the work that Joseph Pilates gave to the dancers, because it was actually the mat work. So it consists of 34 exercises, which was known as contrology. And there are many modifications and variations of them. There's contemporary points of view, there's classical points of view, there's authentic point of view, which the original Pilates, there's fitness points of view, there's physiotherapy point of view. It can be accessed anywhere, anytime. Most Pilates teachers like myself put tons of things online free for everybody. There are tons of stuff on Vimeo and YouTube. We have never been so inundated in life with information, but it's not accessing the information. It's what you do with it and actually applying it and staying in the present moment and staying present with that work when you do it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because it's like sometimes people like get put off if they need equipment. So knowing that you don't need equipment.
Yes, no, you don't.
Absolutely. Okay. What about people with like that are overcoming like injuries and things like that? Is it helpful for that as well?
Yeah, well, there's no such thing as a bad exercise or a bad medicine, but there is such thing as a badly prescribed exercise and a bad medicine. So at my studio, we're back and chronic pain specialist and
Oh
injury
wow.
specialist
Okay.
population. So people will come to me with Parkinson's, fibromyalgia, knee replacements, hip replacements. I've got somebody with a quadruple bypass, but every single person is individual. So you adapt to the person in front. So Krishnamacharya, who was a very famous Indian yogi, said, adapt to the person in front. So you look at that person, where are they? What do they need today? And you adapt the exercises to what they need. So you'll either regress it or you'll progress it.
Yeah, I love that. I didn't realize that you helped people with like illnesses and things like that.
Yeah, it is. Well, we don't heal. I always say to Amy, I don't, there's no such word. I try not to use the word treatment or heal or fix. What I do is I support clients because I'm also a CHEK practitioner. I'm also a holistic health practitioner. I support clients with a great coaching program, get great movement analysis and get great lifestyle and food analysis so that they can recognize the habitual patterns, the belief systems, and the lifestyle patterns which are putting them in that state of disease, depression, or which is hindering them from getting well or staying in that injury.
Yeah, you mentioned food. That's a big one for me because we are a nation of processed food.
We are.
It's quite shocking, isn't it?
It is, Amy, and you and I are of that age group where we remember where, we all had the time years ago to cook from scratch and there were no takeaways and there were no fast food outlets. But life is so busy and so fast and, there's so much going on. When I was a child, the shops closed on a Saturday at 1 o'clock. Sunday, there was nothing open apart from Sunday school or church. So you did lots of things and women didn't have to work back in those days. There weren't the same financial strains, but now there are so many strains and stresses in society. People are just existing, so they're not thriving, they're surviving. So if they go to a supermarket after work and they see 3 pizzas for a tenner, they're going to go home and throw it in the oven for their 4 children because they're just trying to get by. But people say to me, Amy, they don't have time, but it's looking at the time, what you've got, and learning just to make one change a month. So it's learning to get the kids involved and say, right, let's go to the supermarket, let's cook from scratch, let's get the slow cooker on in the morning. Because when you're trying to make any change in life, change is hard work and change takes energy. And if you're depleted in energy, you cannot change. So that's where I always start with the food chain first. The food chain is key for change.
Yeah, I love that because I suppose you can exercise as much as you want, but if you've not changed that, you're not going to have the energy to do that, or it's going to be hard work.
Yes, well, the reflection, your tissue is a reflection of your organs. So you'll never go to hospital with, say, a muscle problem. It's always an organ problem. So we know, that the organs have what's called a viscerosomatic reflex. They have a neural reflex to the surrounding tissues. So you can't make a healthy body without healthy organs. So the whole purpose of the organs is to move food, to move blood, to take nutrients out and put it to the rest of the body. So it was a very, very old famous bodybuilder, I think it was the 1930s or 1940s, called Eugene Sandow, and he showed how you could bodybuild just on healthy food. So the healthier your food, the better your hormones and glands, and hormones and glands are key for health, because when we've not got healthy hormones and glands, they feed the rest of the body.
Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating, like the knowledge, the science that we've got now. I mean, I know it's too late because we've got all the processed food and everything now,
Yes.
but we have got the knowledge to make change. But you've really got to want that as well.
You've got to want it and you've got to take action, Amy. So all the knowledge has been there for over hundreds of years ago. It was actually an old osteopath which talked about gut brain. So
Yeah,
the
yeah,
gut and the brain are linked. It's like a motorway of networks going to the brain, but a goat path going down. So if you put anything in Google, after anybody who's listening to this, autism, ADHD, dementia, Alzheimer's, depression, and you put the words inflammation afterwards, everything has an inflammatory response. So, so much of our disease and problems is connected with inflammation. So, the processed foods, the sugar, not just those things, but the stress and lots of other things like toxins. We've got herbicides, pesticides, rodenticides, all the toxic things which go on in the house, the toxins in the air affect people in a different way. So, when we're seeing all these things, there actually, is a way of preventing them, but you have to stop putting your money into all these big businesses, and we can change the world by where we put our money. So I vote with my pound. Where I put my money and where I invest my money is how we can change the world. Ultra processed food can stop tomorrow. Toxins can stop tomorrow. We can change and become dependent to become healthy and become fully, responsible adults by taking charge of ourselves. But it's hard work, and change is tough, Amy, as you know.
yeah. And I think it's harder when you've got a society that's living the same way as well.
Well, society keeps us living in
Yeah,
fear,
yeah,
keeps us in the lowest vibrational load, because when we're in fear, we're easily controlled. And remember, we are trained through schooling, governments, and religion to stay at that low vibrational level. So it's the Jesuits which had that beautiful quote, "Give me a boy and I'll show you the man." Because from the age of 0 to 7, any big company like Heinz Baked Beans, any religion, any schooling know that if they train that child of 0 to 7, they have that dogma for life. But
yes,
we
yeah.
can change anything, Amy, but you have to step up, you have to step out of your environment. And if you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. So you have to change your peer group. If you want to better yourself and if you want to make money, you have to mix with people with money. If I want to better myself at Pilates, I have to train with people who are better than me. And, that involves in studying with people who live on the other side of the globe over Zoom. I'm constantly looking for people who are asking questions out there in life, because we can do it, but you've got to want to, Amy, and
But
you've got to, do it and stick to it. And action is the only answer.
there's that saying, isn't there? Is it if you're in the smartest in the room, you're in the wrong room?
Yes, that's true, Amy. That's true.
Yeah,
So I've always been, you said I'm, my nickname years ago was Pilates Guru, but I'm a big fish in a little pond, and I have got that nickname, but I'm not well, I am the original person to bring Pilates to the Northwest. There was a physio, there was a couple in South Manchester who actually brought body control, I think it was, and there was somebody else in South Liverpool, but it was the first person to bring apparatus, but there is somebody else. And they always say the greatest teacher is the silent teacher. There's a chap called Kirk Smith, and you never see him or rarely see him on Instagram or socials, but he is the Pilates guru. But you put myself out there, I'm running studios. I love people. I do love social media like you, and I am going to keep that name Pilates guru because I'm a guru in my own right. But so are you, Amy. We're all our own guru. We all have superpowers and we all have superhumans in our own way.
That's it. And we help others become better.
We do. We have the ability. When you have purpose and when you help others, you actually help yourself.
Yeah, I love that. So how long have you been doing Pilates now, like teaching other people?
Well, Amy, I'm going to be 54 next week. So
you never are.
Pilates when I was 27. Yeah. So a long time, 30 years plus. And I did it back in dance college. And as I say, it was called body conditioning. And at first, we had these two American teachers from the Auburn, and I never remember, always remember how crippling it was. But at those days, I didn't really understand movement. It was just throwing my body with brute force into positions rather than relaxing the central nervous system and everything else.
Yeah. Central nervous systems, they're a bit of a problem with people at the moment, aren't they?
They are, Amy, because most of the time we're just living in fight or flight. And I'm doing so much study, Amy. You can have all the best breath work, all the best food, all the best sleep, all the best hydration, all the best mindset, all the best movement. But if you don't reset that central nervous system, the body stays where it is. So you have to dissipate emotions and anger and learn how to get the trauma out of the body. And there are many techniques in order that will do that, which will dissipate these emotions and reset the central nervous system. And you have to find the right thing for you.
Yeah. So what are a few of those things? Because I talk about getting out in nature a lot. That's great for your central nervous system. What other things do you recommend?
Well, it's not that I recommend them, and I never, the people say, can I ask you your advice? There's lots of controversial things. So there are more esoteric things like mushrooms, ayahuasca and things like that, which I've heard good and bad reviews of. There's also meditative practice, music, singing, wailing, screaming, getting out in nature. It can even be riding a bike, gardening. It depends. It's all different for different people, but you need to change it from being Amy and Nisha. So if we approach the problem, as Albert Einstein said, you can't solve the problem with the same level of thinking that caused it. So if I approach the problem as Nisha, as Amy, the problem stays the same. So when you take these practices on, and it could be ecstatic dance, it could be going to a rave, and you change your inner perspective, that's when creativity and a reset of the central nervous system can occur.
Do you know what? I love how you put that. That's so right. Because we regularly do things like as ourselves where it's not worked before. So you have to take on it. Yeah. I love how you put that.
And remember, Amy, most trauma, when we see trauma, hurt and damage people only hurt and damage other people. So you have to be hurt and damaged to hurt other people. But when we see people in prison and, a lot of people who are homeless, when I, have conversations with those people, they have had very, very dysfunctional upbringings. So everything starts with love in life. So if you've not felt or received love as a child growing up, and you've not been in that safe environment, we go back to Maslow's triangle of survival and hierarchy. If you've not got your security and safety to start with, the central nervous system is constantly in fight or flight. And that's where these problems go from. It's social, social problems in society. And in the olden days, the tribes supported each other and the community supported each other, but we're losing our community. We're all living separate. In the Indian culture, you all live together and you support each other. It's going very much in society now, and mental health, depression, suicide, it's through the roof. It really is.
Do you know it is? Because I regularly talk about, obviously, brains, and our brains haven't changed since evolution. We are basically modern day cavemen and women just running around in the modern world, but we are so far removed from what we are naturally supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Yet like you say, we've got more disease now than ever. Mental health, like critical levels. Our food sources are just fake.
Mm.
Yet nobody's kind of made that connection, or they have, but people aren't shouting about it. It's like you can go to the NHS and you'll see leaflets on the wall saying, if you're feeling down, go for a walk.
Yes.
And it could be like, make sure your sleep's okay, but they're not saying the big reason why.
No.
It's
No.
very odd, isn't it? It's a
It
very
is.
odd time.
It is very hard, Amy, but I do believe that anybody who goes to work in medicine, and I'm slightly confirmation biased because I'm from an Indian background, so most of my relatives and my parents, are in a medicine background. They genuinely go into that profession to help people, but your basic things of your nutrition and your mindset are not taught. And remember, when you train to be a medic, it's pharmaceuticals that sponsor most of the medical courses. So you're trained to be, to prescribe, and you do have to ask questions. And you see, the environment that you live in is everything. So if you go home and your partner doesn't support you, and everybody in the house is eating junk food, and nobody's healthy, and everybody's stuck it in front of the TV, it's very difficult to change. Having said that, Amy, I've met the most amazing people which have taken themselves out of that environment, separated themselves, got themselves away, and that's when they've had the ability to change. So the genes load the gun, the environment pulls the trigger. And I did some more research today. So I do a lot of research, and I do a lot of practices of Osho. And Osho was an old Indian yogi and philosopher. And he talked about global suicide and war, and he's dead now. And it's funny, his reading that I read today applied to everything now. So now actually is a golden opportunity for those people with wisdom to step up and make change, because the whole world is heading towards global suicide. And that's where those individuals now have the chance to step up and lead, step out, from following authority, and really lead by example and create community, create tribe, and really create change. Because when the world goes into a crisis like it did in 2020, lots of good things can come out of it. And sometimes we need these things in order to change. And when we talk about depression and suicide, and this is another thing that Osho looked into, people who suffer are the people who ask more questions in life. So those people tend to be slightly more intelligent or brighter, and they think, gosh, I can't live in this crazy mad world, I'm gonna get out. So those are the people who tend to get out, in life. And it's the people who think, oh, all right, I'll just carry on, I'll stay here. So there's never a black and white. There are always three sides to the coin, and it's how we interpret it, how we react. And now is a golden opportunity to make change. It really is, because people are in fear. Step up. Those people who have courage, it takes courage to be disliked. We shared, both shared a mentor called Paul Mort. It's courage to be disliked, courage to be criticized, courage to be abused. It's those people now who need to step up and take action and be leaders.
Yeah, I do believe there's more people out there doing it now than what
Yeah, there is, Amy. There is.
Yeah, which is good to see.
It is.
I think we are at a time where people are caring a little bit more about the health, probably from COVID.
Yes.
But they're caring a little bit more about the health.
Yeah.
I think, kind of social media and phones and technology kind of isolated us when we're supposed to,
yes.
see face to face. I think people appreciate that more now.
Yes, they do.
We locked down and we couldn't see. So there are good things that have come, like you say, from that.
Yeah. There's no positive without a negative, as Dr. John Martini always said. It's always looking for it. And, Amy, everybody's trying to, trying their best. And I do believe everybody has the power to heal. Everybody has their own innate wisdom. Everybody has the power to be superhuman. It's whether you can find that purpose and not go back into your brain. So your whole thing is your brain and neuroplasticity, which I know you, would study a lot more in depth and know a lot more than I do. But what we do, Amy, is we go back into those old habits. So we go back into hindbrain, which is really strong, instead of developing our prefrontal cortex, instead of creating that forebrain, our fore future. We just go back here and stay in that amygdala, which is fight, flight, or flee,
Yes, yes.
And we all
And
do it.
we all do it. We all do it. And it's because,
Yes.
I mean, I always say it's because we were taught to live like that. We
Yeah,
weren't
we
taught
were.
that way. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I do. I'm a big believer that children should be taught about neuroplasticity at
Yeah,
school
they should do.
because it, massively drop like addiction rates.
Yes.
And things like that. And I do believe that if you learn how your brain works early on, you will
Yes.
make a lot better decisions, and you'll be more aware that you're running on autopilot at times.
Yeah. And I listened to a podcast today, Amy, by a guy called Chris Gladwell, who's amazing, who's from Bristol. And he talked about that the brain has the ability to change. So if we're not taught it as a child, you and I know about this, but do other people know about it? If you don't know about it, you can't change, but there are ways of changing, your brain as you get older, but it's going to take work, and you've got to find the right resources and the right people and the right information, and then you've got to do the work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like neuroplasticity is my favorite topic because, of course, on paper, Ben shouldn't be able to walk or talk. That part of the brain is not there, but he's managed to rewire his brain so his brain takes on different functions. So he's had neuroplasticity at the highest level.
Yeah, that's amazing, Amy.
So when somebody turns around to me and says I can't change,
you can. So neurons that fire together wire together. So addictions are the way you're wired to behave and react all the time. And again, on this podcast, I listened exactly what you said, Amy. You can change it. So you don't have to be like that. This is not your destiny. You can change your destiny and your future. It doesn't have to be like that.
No, like you said, and change isn't easy. I'd never tell anybody change is easy.
No.
It's a simple technique and a simple process, and it is a choice at the end of the day, but it's still not the easiest thing if you've wired yourself to be that way, and society has wired yourself
to be that way. True.
But it's about making that first step, isn't it? So it's like you said, like making a small change, like with food once a month.
Yes.
Because I think people tend to, when they think about change, so whether it's changing the diet or changing their fitness levels, sometimes it can be that overwhelming. It's like they're standing at the bottom of Everest.
Yes.
With no backpack supplies, and they're walking in flip-flops.
That's right. It is realistic changes, and people say to me, what's the best exercise? The best exercise is the one you are prepared to do each day, or the one you're prepared to do once a week. So even if it's just walking around the block once, everybody has got to start where they are. There is no judgment, and it's baby steps.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that's another fear of people as well. They're not going to be able to do it, and everybody else is better at it than them. But I think you've got to realise that when you start something new, you're not going to be great at it from the off. It's one of those things, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So anybody thinking about starting Pilates then? So you wouldn't. What about that? Starting with Pilates, where would you start with that?
Starting with Pilates, well, if you've got the finances, go to your local Google and have a search and see what teachers and what studios are out there. Go and try all of them. Try as many different teachers as you can, as many different styles, as many different studios, and find what works for you. If you haven't got the time and you're a shift worker and you're a busy mum, or perhaps you're a driver, there's so much free stuff on YouTube and Vimeo. I also have a book called The Art of Transformation, which talks about the physical, the mental, and the well-being, and talks about Pilates in conjunction with strength training. People can access that through me. And if you just put my name in YouTube or in Google, Nisha Pilates, I have tons of free resources, Amy, and tons of blogs and plenty of information that people can just find at the tip of their fingers without spending a penny.
Yeah. And if it was somebody with an injury or an illness, would you advise that they do go to somebody
Yes.
directly?
Yeah, well, they can do their own research as well.
Mm,
Because the power, the power's in your hands. But yes, perhaps get some advice and things as well. Get the coaching, because remember, we're all confirmation bias. So what one person says might not be right. So, you need to be safe if you're doing the exercises. It's, as I said, there's no such thing as a bad exercise, but there is such thing as a badly prescribed exercise. So you need to find something which works for you.
yeah. Okay. Is there anybody that shouldn't be doing Pilates, which is a bit of an odd question, but
No, everybody can do it, even if you're, you can just be doing the breath. If you're stuck in a chair and you can't move your arms and legs, as long as you can breathe, you can be doing stuff with your face. You can do chin retractions. You can do the mindfulness. There are many different levels and many different interpretations of the work.
yeah. Do you know, it's interesting you said about breathing. So I've been beginning of part of this year learning about breathing because obviously I teach about fight and flight, and obviously that's the first thing that kind of
Yes.
disappears, our breath. But once I started doing it, I realised that I don't actually breathe properly as I would normally. And then I'd done a yoga session and realised I was holding my breath through that as well.
Yeah, we do. A lot of us hold our breath and have faulty breathing patterns, and that's coming from fight, flight, freeze, and also the food chain. So when you have anything which is like a starch or a sugar, it makes the central nervous system go sympathetic dominant. When the central
Right.
nervous system goes sympathetic dominant, we tend to mouth breathe instead of nose breathing. So the ideal breath is nose breathing in through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth, and to breathe longer on the exhale in order to change the body to parasympathetic. But there are many interpretations of that. What I've just said to you, other people may disagree, but mouth breathing is not healthy. If you nose
No.
breathing, you produce something called nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is an antagonist to COVID. That was never taught during COVID. So we need to look at, what the solutions are that we have naturally in our body to fight disease and flu and cold, because all colds and flus are a natural detoxification process of the body when it has toxins in.
Yeah, yeah. And then while you're exercising, like I say, I realised while I was doing yoga, I was like, oh my God, I'm not breathing.
Mm.
I was breathing when the woman told me to breathe. And I was like, oh my God, I've not been breathing. Is that quite common for people to hold the breath when they're thinking about being like different positions?
It is. And the beauty, what you've just said, Amy, when you're doing any sort of mindful practice, and it might be meditation, yoga, Pilates, when you go slower in life, it actually builds awareness. And remember, life is at such a fast pace. It's only when we find moments of stillness, and it's actually in between the Pilates exercise, it'll be the transition, or in between the yoga exercise or during meditation, that true awareness and true change can be facilitated.
Yeah, absolutely. I was so glad I started learning about breath work because I thought
Oh,
I need something. I've got a lot to learn here because I'm
yes,
falling straight into what they're telling me not to do. But
yes.
yes, it's interesting. It's interesting, but that's again, it's gaining knowledge and learning, isn't it?
It is, and we should always be learning, Amy, again, because every time we're learning, we're keeping those cells going in the myotones growing in the brain. Those are I think it's called the myotones. Those nerve endings strong. Telomeres. It is. We're keeping those telomeres strong in the body.
That's it. I love the quote. I don't know who did this quote, but it says the brain awakens in the new. And
That's
it's
beautiful.
so yeah, so right that is when you do something new, whether it's driving a different way to work
Yeah.
or learning something new or
Mm.
learning to play an instrument, learning Pilates, your brain will just love the new.
It does love the new.
Absolutely. And I think Pilates is one of those things where I suppose it could be as simple or as challenging as you'd like it to be as well, wouldn't it?
It is. Well, my oldest client is 81 and my youngest client was about 8, because I had lots of aspiring young footballers. So it's how you adapt to the exercise to the person in front and what they actually need. You look, what does this body need? Where are they now? Where's the central nervous system? Where's the breath? What do they need?
Yeah, yeah, that's incredible. 81.
Yeah.
Blimey. Do you know it's funny? Because I take Ben to a martial arts centre, and there's a lady in her 80s that does the karate
Yes,
moves. I can't remember what they call, like the sequences.
yes,
And obviously, she stayed very subtle by
yeah,
doing that. So it's fun. Do you know what? It's fantastic to see older people
it is.
kind of leading the way.
Yeah, it is, Amy, and it's never too late to change. You can be any age to make change or to start a new hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, it's not that you've got to run a marathon or hit
Yeah, no,
the
no,
gym 5 times a
yeah,
week and things like that.
yes.
I love that. So if people, did you say you're on YouTube?
Yes, I'm on YouTube, Instagram. It's very easy to find me. If you just put in Nisha Pilates, and my YouTube channel comes up, my Instagram channel comes up. It's very easy to find me. There's tons of free resources there. I've got the free book, Transformation with Nisha, lots of different back care tips, rehab programs, fitness programs, all to do or connected with Pilates on there, which are free for people.
I love that. Are you finding more men are getting into it as well?
Well, men were in it, Amy. When I started, when I was 27, I actually taught a guy called Nigel Ashley Jones, moved here from Australia, and they were doing Pilates in Australia. So he got me in to do the rugby league when I was 27.
Oh,
So my
wow.
background was doing professional rugby, Pilates and rugby and football. Football got cottoned onto it a little bit later, but the rugby league, well, the Super League was always ahead, and Joseph Pilates was a man. So, men were doing it before. It was just seen as, middle-aged women doing it. And now it's, become accessible, with all these NFL players doing it and everything.
Oh, wow. I love that.
Yes.
I never knew that about you. Oh,
Yes.
you literally are getting around everywhere and teaching everybody, aren't you?
Well, yeah, that's all. Yeah, and life goes in cycles. We're all on a wheel, so it's like on the hero's journey. We're in different part of our hero's journey, and now I'm on the wisdom and more contemplation part now.
I love that. I love that. So we did say you did mention a little bit before the podcast that you are maybe starting to do online.
Yes, we have got online already, Amy. So there's tons
Right.
of online stuff. So they can buy online programs. Everything's affordable. I've got, programs which specialize in lower back and spine mobility, hip, knee, and lower body problems, shoulder and thoracic problems. They can book one-to-one with me on Zoom. We've got one-to-one group classes. We've got a Pilates channel, which is very affordable, which is $9.99 a month, which has other things like yoga artists and different movement techniques with over 800 sequences on. I've got tons of stuff to offer everybody.
Wow, I love that. That's absolutely incredible. We'll put all the links as well,
Oh, thank you, Amy.
podcast description, because I honestly believe that people now are starting to take notice, and you
Yeah.
are a fantastic teacher.
Oh, thank you, Amy. Well, you're a fantastic interviewer, Amy, and we change by making these connections. So I have to thank you today for giving me the opportunity, because every time you give somebody an opportunity, we actually all grow, not only in ourselves, but we grow in each other. And as we change ourselves, it sends the ripple effect. It's like a thought form out across the world. So we can't change what's going on outside, but what we can change is ourselves. So as we change ourselves, that ripple effects affects more and more of us. And if we all change, the world can change, because we can change the last 100 years in 10 years.
Oh, I love that. You've
Yes.
just got a way of saying things,
Thank you.
Nisha.
I want to finish with one quote, Amy, which is
Go
really
on.
important. So people are always asking, save me, fix me, help me, give me advice. We hold the power. So the pen that writes your life story must be held in your own hand. So the pen that writes your life story must be held in your own hand. So I can't give you the pen, Amy, to write my story. I've got to hold the pen in my hand, and then I've got to help people if I can, and get the right advice and get the right coaches to help me. And if I can't find them, there's so many free resources out there where I can write my own story and change my future.
I love that. I've got one final question for you, my lovely. Nisha, tell me 3 good things about yourself.
Three good things about myself is, Amy, is number one, I always give to myself before I give to others. So you can't give to others till you give to yourself. You can't fill, from an empty cup. Number two, I'm constantly changing all the time, and I cannot expect clients to change unless I change. So we've known each other for about 4 years now, Amy. And if you remember,
Yeah.
I always feel the cold. I always wear my coat like I am now. For the last 3 weeks, I've been doing cold water dips. I
Oh,
can
yeah.
do 30 to 45 seconds. It's not ice water, it's cold plunges, but it's a start. So I'm making myself uncomfortable because growth never comes from a place of, a great place of comfort. It only comes from discomfort. And number three is you're either the victim of your circumstances or the architect of the future. I am the architect of the future. And if I can do it, you can do it too.
Mate, I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for being such an amazing guest.
Oh, thank you, Amy, for being the most amazing mum. And you're one of the most amazing people that I've ever met, Amy. And through your adversity and your pain and your suffering, look what you've created. You're either a creator or a consumer, and you're definitely a creator.
Mate, I love that. I really appreciate that. I need to put a tear to my eye then. You're absolutely incredible. Anybody listening to this, I highly recommend that you go and check Nisha out. Um, she is exactly as she's come across on the podcast. Like, she's literally a legend. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Amy.
Take care.